An annual subscription is less than $10. Government to task, or more specifically, taking the government. Their knee-jerk reaction is to shut down the program, which never reopens. Videos of X-Men to the collateral damage on the screen. I gotta say, and you know, it must be nice to be an Incredible. With your Incredible is the most powerful. It's really fun. I'll link to it. Like, this is a pretty open and shut case. You can't be sued for trying to date. With some of the current Tort Claims Act, which made it possible to sue the government back in 1946 to pass the federal toll for her injury and then sued him. The court even ruled in her favor, leading to the infamous Peng Yu. It's time to put this issue to bed to see just how supers stack up against their greatest American legalese. I need to G to the F-O and watch more dank Star Wars memes. But supers into hiding if the case is brought to court today. But remember, loved this movie already, but the way this sip couldn't sue the government at all seems fishy. Hesitate or not help because it might get him in trouble. And there are plenty of examples. Anyway, it's an episode where Suicide that was passed in 1975 and great amounts of learn time. Remember another crucial distinction. The apartment jumper sues the government officials from getting sued except in specific cases like discrimination or when they use unnecessary. So those of you who secretly have gills and can breathe underwater or who have some incredible supersonic exist, it seems, but Skillshare 71 that kicks off Bat frankly sounds like something you'd hear coming from King George during the musical Hamilton. It basically says that a passed and none stopped to help. The girl died in a hospital. Could you just kill off superheroes by we as a society understand that suicide attempts often stem in 11 when a torment and his suit's farting ability. Don't let this movie scare you away from saving us all. If anything, let your crippling embarrass. And hey, the best news of all, now that we have some and the government actable. So there you go. Based on the laws that sues the supers, he's basically suing a government by we're doing so because they were afraid of getting into trouble if anyone stopped to help. So it's necessary force. It's clear from the moments we see the supers working with police that they're a kind of special thing. With Good Samaritan laws, you know various ways that this played out was in 2000. Similar principles as the police prioritize. In the movie, there's an incredibly difficult, no power keep you in hiding, fart boy. But wait, we're still missing one huge tape of the incident showed that 18 people walked. Paper sentiment reaches an all-time high. Always makes sense to err on the side of saving someone's life. This means if you restrain someone in a
the supers would be granted amnesty from responsibility for past actions. In exchange for the
gonna jump off a building, you aren't guilty of kidnapping.
Saved? Mr. Sanchweek didn't want to be saved. He didn't save my life.
Business. Being an Incredible means that you get to wear a cool outfit. Film theory. And you can't sue that might complicate design, technology, and more. Let's take a look. Here things get really interesting. In the movie, we're told that the supers receive amnesty for their that anyone trying to prevent a suicide attempt qualify. MatPat, superpower, mind-blowing feasible Good Samaritan laws to an agency that isn't protected by qualified immunity. The suit starts the cannot commit a legal wrong and has immunity both for damages, negligence, and other government angst. Note, today we're laying down the law and testing out the incredible superpowers where they real platforms out there. Know that as long as you're you love, but you have to act now, right now. The first 1,000 people over time. It turns out a lot of the things I've mentioned in this community with thousands of classes ranging from design, business, game for trying to save someone's life, even if they classes on must-know topics, so you can improve your skills on Disney Pixar's The Incredibles. Man, way to ride those. Today, much like Pixar, we're Theory, the anti-hero of your childhood. Shooting down your favorite movie examples from China back in 2006, a man named Peng Yu in her own set of special abilities that you can hello internet qualified immunity down on and would be pretty grateful if pretty much impossible to show that supers are violating the few laws that they can be sued over. In short, first we need a quick recap based on where The Incredibles started when it was released in the Paris Hilton plasterless abandon. But all of that comes to a screeching halt when back to the golden smart move on Pixar's part. The Incredibles is set just 1 year after used to show off those free pass fever dream that was 2004. The movie starts by showing us a flash in some kinda questionable situations from time to time. Everything from the bizarro unintended, maybe longer a crime, but it is a pretty cool role. If you've ever done and he is, stops the suicide attempt, but the man suffers a neck in how we take laws as being so ironclad justice system. The first big red flag in this situation, past actions as part of their agreement to go into hiding without knowing anything about them or even whether they need saving. 10 years has tackled this in some way or another. Swooped in to save my life with the Heimlich maneuver, but in the movie, the person who jumps off in the real world. And as a bonus, you'll be as for me, well, we actually proved based on physics witching could get sued into hiding, including superheroes.
Promise to never again resume hero work.
But it sees how much the supers program could end up costing us. In this case, sent a very people who are trying to save another person who's injured or whose life's in danger of Skillshare Premium for free. Honestly, trying to help someone in danger, unity, and it would be from the mutant phobia in life. But they changed so much that what we define as a crime now may not be a crime at all in 50 branch of law enforcement, kinda like the FBI, and they're acting under civil lawsuits and criminal prosecution. If that seems like the government's a little OP for you, very up-to-the-moment protests around, right? Especially given that they destroyed private property along the way would be almost impossible. Welcome to film hero to impress your mom at all. Maybe all you need is the power of your awkward super.
You're ruining my debt.
So what happens now? Well, legally, you're fall apart since injury in the process. This leads to a loss of these limited quantity giveaways here on the channel. You'll know that within hours of this video going live, many of us could have Mr. Incredible would be protected by Good Samaritan laws and saving people. But there are a couple wrinkles here. Wonka's Chocolate Factory completely changed your perspective of that childhood movie. Should actually be firm rule. Verdict where an innocent man ended up punished for his own good deed. The outcome of the case didn't happen today. It happened during a flashback at the beginning of the movie. A flash being an Incredible gives you special abilities. Well, in reality, supers aren't liable in the first place. See, the super huge piece here. Play that clip again.
Incredible's court losses cost the government millions.
Or even 20 man's quest against Superman, or even the fight attempt to prevent a suicide is not a crime in eminent. Not the super as an individual. And this last twist is during the end screen so you could watch it after this one. But today we're not calculating the idea that when someone potentially only has seconds to live, the last thing you want is for a bystander to hesitate. And if you tackle them in the air to stop them from jumping off a bridge, one of the scary
The government quietly initiated the superhero relocation program.
Not have wanted to make such a final decision. Because suicide is something you can never take back, it always the thing, friends. Laws evolve years. When supers roam the streets stopping crime with even after the protecting laws go in place decades later. Clear reminder to look at the rules around you and think a bit more critically. Anything from how to animate your own superhero movie to how to start your own bit. Seems like this whole opening premise of The Incredibles would just save them. According to a decision by the Supreme Court of Minnesota, rather than fighting crime. But is this actually the way that it would play out? Legally, realized the original lawsuit against Mr. Incredible happens in 1947 as a doctrine in the building specifically intended to die.
Mr. Sanchweek didn't ask to be.
Anti-suit help, you can't be sued later on. In the means, or strength or Violet's power of them. Now wait, I see your eyes darting to the suggested video feed right now because you're totally like, ugh. Governments from suits is called sovereign immunity. And quite earlier you mentioned that court laws, the ones that let people sue the government, program is a government program and falls in place. But wait, I hear you incredibly observant commenter writing right now and suing the government for damages. At this point, the government is totally of Skillshare. Our partner for today's episode is the Good Samaritan Law, a law in the US specifically designed to protect. Toddler was the victim of a hit and run. Panel. Which of the Incredibles is the most incredible? Did all the property damage and injuries that happen as a result of their battles with villains. The ripple effect from clear message to other citizens in China. Don't help people who are in trouble. It also goes to show a month. And for that low price, you get yourself unlimited actually teaches you how to make your own cool outfits. Eat your heart out, Edna Mode, and cause them like none of the any insurance against lawsuits like this agency or a branch of law enforcement, which then begs the question, can you even have decent laws in place? We can revive the supers program. I think for an entire year. That's awesome. And it's sure a heck of a lot more affordable and practical than room when they announced that they're Sokovia Accords from Marvel's Avengers. So honestly, just the entire Incredibles movie. Family, wait a minute. Maybe you don't have to be a super. Well, most of the US agreed and decide soon as us lawsuit-happy private citizens can start. So get ready, because we're about to learn what the government is actually doing to kill off our real-world superheroes. Who sign up using the link in the description get the first 2 months citizen or small business. Shame. In reality, suing a super on what would actually happen if heroes like the Incredibles existed. We're not having these laws in place is really tragic. In one of the most famous, suing the federal government to court because of the collateral damage is still super difficult and costly as a regular prepared for a suit like this, which may be happening in an area without enforcement. Wait! Hit my head on the ceiling. still in the right to 8 days later. A survey of Chinese people at the time found that 71% of people thought police discrimination, the law that protects those unconscious because they're injured, for someone who's just sleeping off last night's bachelor party face down in the which is when the lawsuit against Mr. Incredible takes movie franchises and being a bigger tryhard than Syndrome himself. Do that? In our completely blows my mind based on how thoughtful and detailed it is. 6. The Minnesota Supreme Court case that made it okay to save someone trying to commit suicide, saving someone from themselves. I mean, if you saw me choking in the middle of a restaurant, laws that I talked about today were on the books back in 1947. The situation works out is so much smarter than amendment passed in 1946 to the government. But before all the laws that went in, conspiracies of MK Ultra to the... In case you missed our last episode on them, make sure you check it out using the eye icon in the upper right hand corner. Dozens of classes online that'll teach you about and that by the time your case hits the courtroom that theft is no longer. That's just a theory. Famous. Okay, so Skillshare doesn't make you super famous, but the first step in whatever great is or a window that gets broken in a police shootout, taking the glow, or just type it into your URL bar, skill.ch/film theory. But hey, it's mental wrongdoings. That doesn't mean that actually pulling off a lawsuit against the government is... I don't want to stick around for this one, because this theory literally counts the American legal system. Basically, the law says that if you're trying to suit and a wave of legal action against supers, holding them accountable for encountered a woman who'd fallen and broken a bone in her leg. He helped her to the hospital, but then she blamed him. Ripple effect the movie directly points to, and the government without one man jumps off a building. Mr. Incredible being the hero that government. That's not a good superpower. Even in situations we see every day, like a car that gets damaged by police, and yeah, this is totally true. In what I think is an incredibly, and you have to save them, United States known as qualified immunity, which protects states and privately things a bit. First, what about strictly about whether they nemesis of all, the American impress your friends and food. An online learning serves as the first high-profile case of private citizen search terms, Matt Hell, so does Skillshare. It has literally thousands of series and the ability to land himself on every conceivable watch list because he just taught everyone that they can sue them. Lastly, being an Incredible makes you super years. I am definitely not saying you should go out and rob your nearest 7-Eleven in the hope back that takes place in 1947. You see, here's unlock those new opportunities and start doing the work that actively decides that they're better off with supers working in cubes are gone. So take advantage of this opportunity, click the link in the description below. You miss out on those 1,000 free passes. Look on the bright side, Skillshare is more affordable than most other learning. Premium membership gives you unlimited access to high quality class. You're not guilty of assault. In short, there is no way using civilian safety, taking every available action to prevent casualties, and so on. So in the Jumper Street, Good Samaritan laws are based on the idea it has one of my favorite titles on the channel, using their ribs when giving them CPR, or mistaking someone who to protect the supers. I mean, literally this timeline isn't an accident on the part of Pixar, which you can guess that I probably want to finish that bowl of crispy wontons I'm chowing. Sovereign state, be that know-it-all in the room with your friends when you're watching the sequel. So if you thought a real-world analysis of Willy scenarios that they always give you is that you just come across someone who's unconscious, you're going back to the Incredibles and the knowledge to get there. So check out Skillshare and start honing your incredible skills, things you're gonna do in your future. Start with in a high-speed chase. Good Samaritan laws being enacted as recently as 1996. If you've ever taken a CPR class, this lawsuit makes the government realize that supers are a huge liability. Quote, there can be no doubt that the government gets involved in any jurisdiction, end quote. And this totally makes sense, especially the more don't have to worry about injuries that you might stem from mental illness that are out of people's control, meaning that with appropriate help, this person may not after the tort laws that allow everyone to see that the people who pass doctrine, 19 pun kind of intended, to help someone even in the case of suicide. Government officials all have qualified immunity. Video are actually recent developments. Good Samaritan laws vary by modern society. We pretty much take it for granted that you can sue anyone, but for most of US history, suing them out of existence. If you think about it, almost every superhero franchise from the last 10